5 questions with an insider, getting to know this week's opponent.
UCF travels for a Saturday high noon game with the Connecticut Huskies. UConn is coming off a 42-27 loss at Tampa. Joining us to preview Saturday's matchup is freelance writer Ken Davis. Ken has covered UConn basketball since 1985 and writes about the Huskies in the American for today'sU.com, part of the FanRag Sports Network. Ken, thanks for joining us again this year.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
You know, the Huskies check in at 3-4, signature win over the ACC's Virginia Cavaliers. UConn, though, just 1-3 in American play. What's going on with the Huskies so far this season?
It's really been very up and down, as the records show. I mean, they started out the season just not scoring many points. They've certainly started scoring a little bit more. But, you know, they had the really last-second game against Navy, which started out their American play, and they mismanaged the clock a little bit down there on the goal line, or they could have won that, which, you know, when you consider Navy has beaten Houston and Navy's got that long winning streak, I think 13 games at home, that would have been a really good win for them, but they're just not clicking offensively until last week, really, against Cincinnati. I mean, the week before this last one, and you know, they still scored some points. They finally scored points in the first quarter in this game against USF. They hadn't scored in the first quarter all season. They got a field goal from Bobby Puyol, and I don't know. I wasn't down there at the game, so I don't know how much they celebrated that. But they just really struggled. They did most of their offense in the second half, and it's hard to explain. They have some really talented people, and Bryant Sheriffs is not the best quarterback in the league, certainly, but he's really pretty good. He's got a good arm. He's proven that, and he just gets sacked so often again. He takes a lot of hits, and he's not real sure of himself in the pocket still, and he runs a lot, so he's kind of he's not what you would traditionally think of as a dual threat quarterback, but I mean, he picks up yards on the ground with his legs, and sometimes he panics and comes out of that pocket a little bit too soon, and they don't really get that much out of it. But they're starting to get some other people involved. It was good against South Florida to see Arkel Newsome have a couple of big games, because they just haven't had a lot of big plays this season. And then Noel Thomas has developed into an NFL-like receiver. He's really talented, and he gets to places all over the field. And usually if he's out there, he's open somehow, and Bryant does a good job of finding him. He's had four consecutive 100-yard games, and that hasn't happened in a long time at UConn. So that's obviously a matchup that works, and the UCF fans are going to want to watch in this game coming up, because that's where UConn's primary yardage is coming up right now. But Arkel Newsome's a tremendously fast individual, and Ron Johnson's more of a bruising back, and Ron hasn't done anything outstandingly big yet. So most of the rushing yards are coming from Arkel now, and also Bryant Sheriff's picking up yards and losing yards sometimes too with the sacks. So the offense has really sputtered. The defense is pretty good. It's not. I wouldn't say it's as good as some of the defenses that people have seen in the conference over the years, but there certainly are some top name guys that get the job done. And they had 4 turnovers. They came away with 4 turnovers in the USF game and just couldn't take advantage of them all. So they make some other mistakes. They give up a few big plays here and there too, which has been part of the problem. So yeah, it's been up and down. I people were kind of surprised they lost to Syracuse, but I was impressed with Syracuse, and then they had we've had a couple other good wins too. But that was at home. That was a tough one. And then they've had the big blowout to Houston and this loss to USF. So I guess they're still where they could be. I mean, they've gone through the tough part of the schedule, which is the best part as far as thinking to a second consecutive bowl trip. So we'll just have to see what happens in the second half here, if they can pull off well, they're going to need 3 more wins, so just to be on the borderline.
Well, tell us a little bit more about Bryant Sharif's top receiving target. Talked a little bit about it already, but we want to hear more.
Well, Noel's a senior, and he's 6'1", right around 200 pounds, a little over 200, and he's just a really good athlete, and he has really learned how to run his routes, and he comes out of there clean pretty much most of the time. And then he's athletic enough that he can tack on some yards at the end of it. It's not just catch it and step out of bounds or anything like that. Although, they've had some long throws to him along the sidelines that have been effective. But if they can hit him over the middle, he can really produce some yards, and he's dangerous. Once they start getting around the red zone, he can get in the end zone. I think he's got 2 or 3 touchdown passes that he's had receiving. But I think it's his athleticism, it's his experience. And Bryant and him have worked together a lot now over the last 2 years, and they've become a pretty steady, combination, which hasn't existed at UConn for a while. It's always been such a run-oriented offense, and I think that's part of the reason why people are disappointed. Offense was really not the strong point of that team last year. And, of course, Coach Bob Diaco was defensive coordinator at Notre Dame before he came here. And certainly they had the history of strong defense, and he came along with his, and it's continued. And the emphasis on offense isn't there. He said at the beginning of the year that he wanted it to be a better offensive unit that would hold on to the ball longer and produce some more points, but they started off those first few games, even beating Maine 24-21, and then they lost at Navy 28-24. So they didn't put. They didn't until Cincinnati was the first time that they actually really put some points on the board, and they lost to Houston 42-14, Syracuse 31-24. They could have won that Syracuse game. But the best thing I guess you can say about that is it didn't end up being a 4-game losing streak because by beating Virginia they avoided that. So they lost 3 out of 4 right there.
Well, you talked earlier about the quarterback getting beat up a little bit. Running game 115th overall. Is the line the big bugaboo here for the UConn offense?
Well, one of the things with the line is that Tommy Hopkins has been out a lot, guard, who's probably their best guy on the front line. And it shouldn't be because they have Richard Levy as a senior and Andreas Nappy as a senior, and Hopkins is a senior, but Hopkins has been out most of the time. He got hurt early, came out, came back in, and then he got, watching the game on TV Saturday night, he got hurt again, and I just haven't heard any word. There's no press conferences or anything until Tuesday. We won't probably know anything on an update there until we get to the press conference on Tuesday. But it looked like he was injured again in the same place. I think it's a knee injury, and he didn't look good when he came off the field Saturday night. So that's been one of the big problems. It's a better line than last year. It's still not a great line, but Bryant also Bryant likes to run, and he likes to be challenged late in the game. He said he loves the 2-minute drill, but we've said all this drama has to go out of it. It's just been too many close calls at the end, and like I said, he'll get sacked. A lot of it's indecision on his part too. I think he doesn't always do a great job of going through all of his reads. I mean, he throws when he knows he's throwing to Noel and he's his first option, and Noel's open. He'll throw a beautiful pass and they'll have a big play. But a lot of times he doesn't check through all of his reads if Noel is covered, and then he starts getting in trouble. He'll roll out and he starts running, or he'll just get caught in that in the pocket and not make the decision that the coaching staff would like to see him right away. So a lot of the sacks come that way. But, yeah, I think it's a combination of the line and the way he approaches the game.
Tell us a little bit more about the defense. The Huskies have given up more than 500 yards to South Florida. For the season, UConn is ranked 76th overall. Pretty good against the run, but 119th against the pass. Why the struggles?
A lot of it has been big plays, big yardage plays that came early. They tightened it up a little bit. But last night I said they had Saturday night they had 4 turnovers that they took away from them, and it just didn't get it converted, even with good field position. I don't think it's quite as cohesive a defensive unit as we've seen at UConn in the past. Obviously, they've had some teams that have been, ranked in the top 10 with overall defense. So even with Paul Pasqualoni and I can't remember where they were ranked last year, but they have done a good job against the rush. I noticed within the league they're third in rushing defense in the league, but they're 12th in passing defense, like you said. And they basically have a nice, strong group of linebackers, and there's been a little bit of a problem in the secondary. But you got a guy like Jamar Summers who has come up with, he's sort of a big play kind of guy, and he's done that again this year like he did last year. Javon Williams, who's a senior cornerback, Saturday night against USF, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but made one of the best plays I've seen defensively, maybe not just this year, but any time. He pinned the ball against the receiver's helmet and somehow came away with it while they were both grappling for the ball. And it was, they showed it about 12 times on replay, and it was just an amazing takeaway. They've got some personnel with good numbers, but like I said, it doesn't seem cohesive. And keep your eye on defensive end Luke Carrizolo, because he had a great game against USF, and he's been one of the most consistent guys on the defensive line. He's 6'3", 260. He's a big guy, and he can get in there right at the line and cut off the running game a little bit. Matt Walsh has had a good season at linebacker. He's a converted running back. Has played linebacker the last 2 years. He's a senior. Junior Joseph puts on some of the biggest hits you'll ever see. One of the guys to watch that isn't getting a lot of attention, but it's E.J. Levenberry, is a linebacker who transferred to UConn from Florida State and sat out last year. And he's had some really nice games with most notably with tackles for loss and maybe a half sack here or there, or a couple. I think he had a couple games where he had like 2.5 sacks. And he's been a real pleasant surprise, really nice guy, and just decided Florida State wasn't for him and sat out last year. He's learned the system really quickly, and when he's in there, he can make a difference. But I think a lot of it has been secondary related. They just blown coverages and on long passes, but they have been able to. The front line has been good with the slowing down the running game. So there's some interesting matchups there for this game.
Well, finally, we couldn't let you go without bringing up, your head coach, Bob Diaco, and his intention of making the UConn versus UCF matchup a heated rivalry, with creating the trophy and all. One UConn brought down to Orlando last year. They took that back home with them following the 40-13 win over the Knights. What's going on with this rivalry, and maybe more importantly, where's that trophy?
It may be in a wood shop somewhere where they're trying to get everything adjusted and have the right logos on there. And it was one of the funniest things last year that started out with him mentioning it at the civil conflict at the media day in Newport, and we all kind of thought he was joking, but then went ahead and did it and brought the trophy down there, and we haven't heard anything about it since. I think we'll probably hear something at least by midweek of if he plans to have it out there, if he's going to hand it over to UCF if they win and let them take it back to, or maybe he's just dropped it because I think, a lot of it had to do with George O'Leary and his respect he had for him. It's a strange way to show respect, but we kind of see what he was trying to do with the shakeup, with the Big East split, and it's just not a really good rival for UConn, although I think it would make more sense if it was UConn and Temple. But then again, maybe everybody's going to leave and go to the Big 12. Who knows? We got got to find out this week what the Big 12 has decided. Everything I hear, they're going to not make any decisions, not take anybody, and I really don't think UConn was in the top 4 anyway. But I think it should be. I mean, they're really where they're sitting in the standings right now, where they are statistically. I met Scott Frost down at Newport at the media day, and I was really impressed with him and his attitude. He is so enthusiastic, and he can tell you, even just being there a few months, at that point, he can tell you every statistic about your enrollment and and all the good facts that I don't think, a lot of people up here and in the Midwest overlook that you're such a big school, and I found him very energetic, and I think he's going to be a good coach for you guys. I think he's going to be back up in the mix there soon. So it's really more incumbent on UConn to rise up at this point. So,
well, regardless of the fate of that trophy, rest assured, UConn's got plenty of hardware for the men's and women basketball teams. So you're pretty good in that department, no matter what happens with that civil conflict trophy. Ken Davis, we appreciate you so much joining us, and I hope you enjoy the game on Saturday, and we appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Coast to coast,
and even north of the border in Canada.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Trylko. Tell your friends about Knightline Postgame Live. It's the only place to talk about UCF's latest road game as soon as the game ends.
We're taking your calls live, so save our number, 407-401-9184. That's 407-401-9184.
Join the conversation with Knights fans across the country. Download the Rabble.tv app today and listen in. Remember, when the clock expires, we go live.
Knightline Postgame Live, your place to talk about football with two of the biggest UCF fans around.
Go Knights!
Charge on.